Summarizing data to include in your report can be challenging. And in this video, I wanted to share with you some of the ways that I've summarized data to include in professional reports. So as an engineer and a consultant, when I've been writing professional reports for clients, some of the ways that I've summarized data to be included. Because I had a colleague recently who'd done all this great work, putting together a project that had lots of great data and research into it. But when it came to summarizing it into a report that people will actually want to read, he really struggled. So I was trying to help him come to terms with all the data that he had under his control, that he had to summarize into this report, and that this report was going to be presented to our client. So I wanted to share some of those tips in this video because that's what I like to do on this channel, to share the sorts of tools that professionals can use to improve the work that they do, whether that be by improving your report writing, improving your data and analytics capabilities, or by keeping up with the latest trends in professional development and producing great quality work for clients, because that's what I like to do as well. So my name's Chris. This is Engineered Upgrade, and I want to share with you some of those tips that I gave to this young professional about how to improve the way his data was presented in the report. And in this case, the data was, there were quite a few things. There were sets of engineering drawings that were included in the data. There were lots and lots of figures, lots of statistics, lots of what I'm going to call transactional entries, where something had happened. He had a series of measurements over and over that were taken. And then how do you summarize and present those? Because I found that some of the young professionals have a tendency to want to include too much information that no one's going to read. So how do you summarize that into a summary? Say the executive summary at the front of the report that someone's going to want to read, that's going to be engaging for your audience. Because what's the purpose of putting together a report if no one's going to read it? So that was where I was trying to help him out, put together an engaging report. And I think the key piece of information here that I want you to take away from this is that whenever you have data to summarize, think about how you can put that in a graph, think about how you can put that in a table, or think about how you can put that in a list that supports whatever your argument or whatever your position of the report is. So have in mind the goal of your report, whatever you want to present to your audience, whatever opinion you're trying to back up to your audience. Now, in an academic world, this might be called hypothesis, improving your hypothesis. However, in the professional world, you're being paid to develop an opinion, and whatever data supports your opinion, think about how to present that as a graph, a table, or a list. And that's what I was telling to this young professional. Think about, okay, well, we're going to want to put a graph together to show off how two pieces of this data compare, or how this data changes over time, how our data changes with our samples. We can put all of that into a graph that shows what it is. We can summarize key pieces of information out of that data, key statistics out of that data into a table, or we can list out the various categories or items that you've looked into. And so the figures, the tables, and the list, in that order, data, that's my preference order for how to summarize data, either as a graph, a table, or a list. And I've done other videos, if you're interested, about how to present particularly tables and lists to make them more readable, not take them too long. But the figure is the best way to demonstrate data. Now, it could be a graph, it could be a pie chart, it could be some sort of other chart or figure. You might see these in professional reports quite frequently that really summarize the work and data that you do and are able to present your message. So how do you do that? Well, you pick a chart or a figure is just a measurement of one or two dimensions that compares those two dimensions and over perhaps different sets of data, and allows the reader to engage with it. So in this case, he had a series of measurements that were taken over time. So the obvious way to do it was to make a plot that showed time on one side and the measurements on the other, and then plot how those measurements changed. Now, in this particular case, it was for a series of electrical transformers. So we could say, okay, this one transformer, we know that it has these measurements over time. This other transformer, we know that it has these measurements over time. Are they similar? How have they changed? And that can help to form the opinion of the report. So we were being asked to provide an opinion on what we thought the forward-looking condition was of these transformers based on these measurements. And so based on what he had seen in the past, based on the measurements that had been taken in the past, what could our client expect going forward? And by comparing the different transformers and plotting them on this graph, we could say, okay, well, here are the differences between some of these transformers. We can see how the organization is treating this equipment differently in different geographical locations. And we can say, well, consider this works better over here and this works better over there. We can see it on our graph where there's been improvements or degradations at particular times. And we can use that information as summary. So presenting that really visually would really help. If you find that lists and tables are something you'd like to see more of, hit the like button because I'll go into more detail. But in this video, I thought I'd just give a quick summary of those. Wherever you can, wherever you want to summarize data in a report, think about how you can present it as a figure, a table, or a list. Now tables, I found the best way is to keep them maybe 3 to 5 rows across. Just pick out the key metrics from your data. And I'm doing another video soon about what it means to turn data into metrics, or what it means to develop metrics from data. So if you're interested in that one, hit subscribe, follow along. But take out some key pieces of information from your data, such as say the average or the maximum or the minimum, something that summarizes the data in one point, and whatever that is will depend on whatever data you've compiled, whatever's useful for supporting your opinion. And then put that into the table, maybe 3, I've found 3 to 5 rows is best. I've struggled to make 6 or more rows readable, but then to have that there in the table, and that gives a nice summary to the person reading it. So imagine you're the busy executive for this organization and you want to know, okay, well, how can we fix our transformers? How can we make them better? Well, in our report, we say, okay, your average of these measurements is 7. It should be 8. So, and that's one table, you know, the average is 7, but it should be 8. So that's one piece of information in the table. Then we have a figure underneath that says, or we have a figure on the next page that says, okay, well, this is how it's changed over time between 2 different locations. Pick the best things from that location and put it in the other one. And that's how, in our busy executive's mind, without reading any words, they've gone, table, average and improvement. Okay, we want to improve that. Next thing that they don't read the text, they just flick through the figure, and the next thing they read says, these 2 locations are different. This one is good and this one is bad. So they say, okay, well, quite clearly the obvious thing to do then is to take what worked in the good location and apply it to the bad one. There is some nuance in that, but from the executive's perspective, that'll do, that'll satisfy them. So there's some of the experience I've had writing and summarizing amounts of data. If you're interested in more specific details on how to do that, please follow along in this channel because that's the sort of thing I like to offer. My name's Chris, this is EngineeredUpgrade, and I'll see you in that next video.